So Lux, this little mini game here is reminding me Doom Eternal is very bop-it minded.
Yeah, that's how you've been describing it. Is that it's a lot of bop-it stuff.
You were talking last week about just the want for children to be invisible in public spaces and the kind of public phobia or public.
The weird antisocial tendency that implies.
Yeah, the invisibling of children. Something about the type of power fantasy Doom is telling me is telling me that I am a child, but in a very, as an adult way. I, as a grown person, am a small being, is kind of what I'm getting at with the constant bop-it, minivan gamification of what Doom is doing to my brain.
Sure.
I'm given a lot of mechanics, but I'm not given the ability to really experiment with them.
You don't get to play with them, you just sort of stick them where the game tells you to go. And
something about the feeling of being the small being, of feeling powerless, of just being a baby with this square block puzzle, brings to mind just the adult want to be a child as it absolves you from, I mean, social participation, but even like considering yourself culpable or capable of doing anything about the structures you're in socially. You know, I'm a victim of this empire as much as those on the frontier of it who are crushed underfoot for profit. I can't do anything to change anything. I'm just this small being. This is comfortable. I'm in the crib.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I'm not sure if that's too cynical or too negative, but I just feel there's if you can picture yourself only as a small child who can't do anything, then it absolves you of having to imagine doing anything, really questioning if you should be doing anything. Just a lot of comforts in that. And I think about this when it comes to, even at a base level beyond voting, like, you know how DSA has you pay dues to them on a monthly basis, for instance. Even that kind of making Americans cringe because they don't typically think of politics as something they're, subscribing to or giving money to in that manner. I don't know, just little acts of imagination seem stifled by this prison of the child or of the baby. It's tricky territory too, because as we've articulated before, we like comics and video games and that kind of stuff. Whoa. So I don't want to get into like a superficial like man-child kind of thing here, but I don't know. There's a tension there. I'm curious about. And I'm curious about your thoughts on it. All right, you have to infinite mana under 75 seconds.
Yeah. There's a Zizek thing that I think McGowan gets into also, which is sort of this idea that, and this is also big time a Deleuze thing, honestly. It's, I think, foremost a Deleuze thing, frankly. If we're, I guess that's where I'll start, is the Deleuze of it. So, in Thousand Plateaus, there's an essay called The Genealogy of the Geology of Morals. It's a play on...
Genealogy is the Nietzsche one. I'm familiar with that one.
It's a play on the genealogy of morals. Not Atlanta. Springfield, Massachusetts. But yeah, so that's... It's called The Geology of Morals. Very good piece. I like it a lot. There's a lot of weird stuff in it, and a lot of stuff that doesn't entirely make sense. But one of the core things it's doing at the level of argument is where, well, yeah, I trust the Hamill's mammal, he would know. One of the core arguments it's making at the level of argument is presenting the concept of striated versus smooth morality.
Okay.
And the idea is that striated morality basically sort of operates in this way where, so you know what striated versus smooth rocks are, or like strata in geological terms?
Go ahead and tell me.
Okay, so it's basically that some kinds of rocks form with striations, which are caused by like layers or erosion, which are
Like recursive pattern type
just like little
stuff?
tracks in them.
Okay.
They're little paths where you can like see where water has gone and stuff. Whereas some things are alternatively smooth. They are like complete pieces, or the way in which water has run over them has rendered all of the stuff basically the same, etc. And so they talk about striated versus smooth morality in terms of striated morality is a moral situation where you're always kind of moving along these pre-constructed pathways that you are moving through the striations in the geologic fabric of society, right? There's pathways that exist.
Yeah, to bring that to the Malbolge, I find it interesting because you get within this and you start getting to the more structural levels of sin, and you do start getting into like a striated sense of hell.
Yeah, because you're moving inside of these pathways, right? Which is, this idea that there are, various moral positions you can take, and they all sort of point you in a direction, and that you just follow those particular, whether it's...
Right. That's why some of these are the bigger sins, because it's not just you're committing a sin, but you're leading other people into sin through leading them. Okay.
Through concern. Well, it's a little. I mean, that
well, that's Inferno.
That comparison kind of holds up a little bit, but I think it's just that, like, I mean, to go back to our original starting point of Derrida, like, it's the undecidability thing, right? Like, you're offloading the sort of force of moral choice to pre-constructed moral frameworks that exist, right? You're not making the choice. You're just sort of saying, I'm doing the system. The system is doing it.
Operating, within what the system deems like just, ethical.
Yeah.
The ethics of the system.
The ethics of the system, and also that you aren't the one doing the choosing, right? The system is. The moral system is, right? Not like a political system, the moral system.
We're
right?
all saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, or it's like, you can be a utilitarian, and then if you do something bad, that other people perceive as bad, you go, well, this is just the outcome of my utilitarian moral system. Or you could be a deontologist, and same thing, or whatever. Or a, hyper-humanist ethicist. And then all your choices aren't your responsibility. They're the outcome, they're the inevitable outcome of the moral system in which you've chosen to participate. Ooh, hello. But yeah, so that's like the striated smooth distinction, because smooth ethics kind of implies a sort of mobility between spaces, right? That like your ethical position is not consigned to or committed to a particular set of like prescribed lines, that you can move across the rock face in whatever way you choose, because you're not bound to, a particular striated pathway. Right, to go back to Derrida, it's similar to the undecidability thing in that you don't have a prescribed system of morals. You have a one that is being constructed newly every time you make a moral choice, which gives you the responsibility as the moral actor for the actions you're taking. So from there, from that contention.
Can I try making just an observation that I feel is kind of fitting here, considering the two games we're playing? So I'm given a moral choice to R2 these guys and absolve or punish them. I can make that choice. In Doom, I have to wait for them to glow to deliver a specific punishment with a specific weapon. I'm not making that choice.
Right. Yeah. So that's
interesting.
I think that's like the top level version. Then I think this gets to become more nuanced as it goes.
Yes.
Because so then I mentioned Zizek and McGowan, and they talk about this in terms of what's it called?
Is this the same Todd McGowan of like Y Theory?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
It's in his Lacan and Cinema book.
Okay.
They talk about this stuff in terms of Lacan, but also in terms of respectively multiple choice testing or soda, depending, on. I don't think you should do those. I think those kill your combo.
Okay.
And you have to get to a hundo. But yeah, so their argument basically is that what capitalism does, and this is sort of what Deleuze and Guattari are arguing with the smooth and strided ethics, although I think they're talking more about historical systems in general than capitalism specifically, is it limits the fields of possibility, right? Like, it limits what choices are available.
It's like that Noam Chomsky thing about discourse, like permitting like broad discourse within a narrow range of subjects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it determines what those outcomes what outcomes are possible to be achieved, or like what choices you're allowed to make, right? So you can do any number of things as long as they're the things outlined by the system. I mean, easy example, right, is I can eat whatever Sour Patch Kids I want as long as they're the Sour Patch Kids in the colors that we have available to us.
All right. Then.
And so the way they frame this up is that moral and political choice on a day-to-day basis within contemporary capitalist society is, when McGowan puts it as you have the choice between A and B, but the radical choice is choosing C, right? Or I think Zizek makes a joke about you have Coke and Pepsi would choose RC Cola, right? That any choice within the prescribed bounds of behavior.
Below are the Simonist popes, those false men of the cloth whom you followed so blindly.
I wish they were on fire, but at least they're upside down.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
No, we got this.
Okay.
5 enemies. Oh, this is going to be the tricky one. The airborne move. Do I hold triangle?
Hold triangle, launch them, yeah.
Okay.
Perhaps it's your soul that's in danger, Doctor, not mine.
I did know someone with a tree house growing up. Remember, you have to magic those guys' shields to.
Oh wait.
You also have to magic those guys' shields to get them
off of fire.
Off of fire, yeah, and then you can do stuff to them.
Oh come on. Well, when they're in the air.
Yeah, once you get them in the air, they're pretty killable, but you just have to.
There we go. Well, I think if they're on fire, it doesn't matter when they're in the air.
Well, you can't get them in the air if their shields are on fire. Is the thing.
Kill this guy at least.
Yeah, you only got 2 left.
Come deeper, Doctor, for more awaits.
But yeah, so they present this claim, right, that political and ethical action is all within these prescribed limits of possibility, and so when you're doing stuff, what you are doing, kind of regardless of what it is inevitably just reifying and validating those outlines of what is an acceptable action. I hope. What you're getting at, in terms of Doom, is a twofold relation to this idea. Well, hold on. Sour Patch Kids, baby.
I'm gonna.
Thank you, Gnarly. Shimala My Bulge is really good. It's just too bad you couldn't get the third part.
Invalidated. I'm gonna forgive the fortune tellers because I think fortune telling is cool.
I think you should forgive him because he was in trouble for doing trans stuff, and I don't think that should put you in hell. He was
Not at all.
He was gender fluid, or I guess bodily fluid, but not bodily fluids. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But his body was fluid and they sent him to hell, and I think that's lame. They should have.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite parts of Paradise Lost is when Adam is just like, yo, Raphael, do angels fuck? And he's like, yeah, we just kind of mush all together, and then he just takes off.
He's like, we turn into a gas.
Yeah.
And then we just sort of blend.
There's no membrane.
Nice twofer at the end there.
Yeah. Sending our trans friends to heaven.
Yeah,
That's what video games are all about.
That's worth it. That was a good choice. So in the Diablo example, right, you're not making any choice. Exactly, man. People should read the Cyborg Manifesto.
Towards a post-sexual society.
Yeah, the Donna Haraway gets it. The body is a malleable object. Sorry, I'm working my way back.
Yeah, meets old hardware, metal the future.
Whoa. You're doing your work at Riot due to the.
Why, hello, World.
Due to the housing crisis.
If only the false prophets here could have seen your future.
Ah, yes, the sorcerer.
Oh, we got an Alex Jones meltdown? That's good. Yeah, your hyper-local housing crisis. The crisis within your house.
Oh, damn, that sounds awesome. Not the hyperlocal housing crisis, just the Alex Jones meltdown.
Yeah, take your whiz to work day.
Take your whiz to work.
I guess that is what Nick's up to. I love when the large, strange red men scream about traitors.
Stay in the air for 8 seconds. Okay.
And that's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
Did you think I'd come back to you after what you've done?
I think we need to tie in some more combos up there and use some other moves. Yeah, that's how you do it, but you gotta do long.
What's up?
You just gotta do it long enough to stay there for all 8, but that was the right way to do it. Keep bouncing them. But yeah, so you have this thing, right? So we have this situation, right, where it's like, shut up, terrifically quit or whatever fake thing.
Oh, ban enrollment.
Yeah, if you want to ban them, I can just take the controller for a second, but I can also keep explaining this thing. So with Doom, right, what you're describing isn't actually a choice apparatus at all, right? It's direct, 100% dictated behavior. Because with Doom, they're like, if you want to punish this thing, you have to do exactly these steps. Right? That's the proposition. Is you follow the exact steps. Doom, D-O-O-M, Doom Eternal specifically.
Doom Eternal, yeah. Doom Eternal.
Doom
right?
Eternal presents you with that, right? That like you have to hit those exact steps in the exact right way to do the thing. And so there's no choice mechanism there at all, actually. It's not a question of them presenting you a false choice mechanism or a made-up choice mechanism. It is them giving you none. This gives you the semi-choice of absolve and punish, but in the McGowan Zizek Deleuze accounting, that's not really a full choice either, right? Because it is a prescribed set of choices. You can either absolve or punish, but A, you have to accept the absolve punish binary in the world that imposes that, and B, you can't do anything else. I guess you could theoretically leave them alone if you don't talk to them, but
Or just not play the game.
Yeah, or
shut
kill-
the council
right.
off. Yeah.
Right, but that's the radical choice to choose C, right? That's the RC Cola, is
Yeah.
you just forego the system entirely. And so, to wrap all the way back around to the original question about the sort of infantilization thing, is that, boy, yeah, this one is going to take some more turns. Sorry, everyone. We're going to do a lot of philosophy stuff right now. Is that like...
Pitch of the politicians. The liars.
Well, it's both building upon stuff we talked about last Tuesday.
Yeah, it is, but I had not prepared this, so I'm sort of freestyling, and I'm realizing that there's a lot more pieces to this puzzle than I thought when we started. So
Protects the human. Okay, I'm gonna take a sip real quick.
That's
sugar up.
That's fraught, but okay. So what we've established so far, for everyone who's just got here, and also for my own remembering what's going on,
Yes, welcome to hell.
is moral choice is generally dictated by the social situation in which it exists, which presents a limited set of options. Some may be better, some may be worse, but all of them are circumscribed by social situations. And that your agency, and therefore your ability as a moral actor, therefore, is limited because you cannot be fully responsible for your actions or judge others as responsible for their actions because they're all circumscribed by, oh, you're missing one. Oh, they got your human. They're all circumscribed by sort of social demand. And that ethical, like truly revolutionary or, you know, exceptionally powerful revolutionary demand is only possible if you are operating outside the bounds of those pre-established frameworks. So that's where we're at. So then you talk about infantilization, and what infantilization is in this particular case is the limiting of available like choices, right? Is the limit, is the denial of the need for all those choices, the prescription of possible options, what Deleuze would call like re-territorialization of ideas, or the denial of lines of flight. Lines of flight being sort of the options of the means by which one can remove oneself from these sort of prescribed systematic approaches. So why is that is like a very existentialism thing, right? Like Beauvoir, who I've been reading a lot of for Burns lately, and Sartre talk a bunch about this, that like freedom is very scary. That with freedom comes the fact that you are then responsible for the choices you make and for their outcomes.
I have a question when you have a brief.
Well, yeah, what's up?
I picked up No Exit recently, the play.
Yeah.
Should I read any of his works before it, or do you think it works kind of on its own?
I think it works on its own.
Okay. I was like, do I need to know much of his philosophy work? I
think a lot of the philosophical ideas are just...
Damn.
Oh, fail. Okay. I think all the philosophical ideas are just in there.
Okay.
And I think it can go both ways. You either read it and then look at some of his other stuff to get a clean idea of what's going on, or you can read his other stuff first and then get a clean idea of what's going on in No Exit. But yeah, so they talk about how freedom is terrifying, right? That freedom is
Ice.
Oh crap, I already lost one. That sucks. That's the same spot you lost one. It's just hard to get from side to side, but I think I should use more magic.
Same. That's what I realized after losing the one as well.
But yeah, so
Freedom is terrifying.
Freedom is terrifying, and part of the biggest reason it's terrifying is that like there's no longer a means by which you can sort of deny responsibility for your choices or your actions. You are fully culpable for all the stuff that you do because you are a free actor choosing to do that stuff. And so the reason these ethical systems, even very sort of well-meaning and opaque one, or well-meaning complicated ones, while are somewhat, you know, can be good, but they are limiting and not necessarily always good because, oh, beans. They're limiting, not necessarily always good because they offload that responsibility and they limit your ability to make choices. They also limit your capacity as a moral actor due to, you know, the fact that you're offloading these systems. And so you have these systems and these frameworks in place to make moral choices that, you know, infantilize people precisely to give them the out from having to take moral responsibility for stuff. And that's their function. And then what that does, like you said, is like that isn't of itself is the infantilizing mechanism, right? That there's no more need for self-reflection or intentional action, and you don't have to be treated like an adult who's responsible for their choices and who we need to take seriously as an actor because you are just playing inside of the choices laid in front of you. And infantilization, that system infantilization, makes that more comfortable and palatable for people, and it disguises that sort of rejection of freedom as, you know, some kind of systemic aesthetic preference, as opposed to a reflection of a sort of, you know, combination cowardice and disregard. And so that's sort of, I think, what the infantilization thing is doing. And I think that also, like, you know, does contribute to the sort of anti-socialization stuff that we've been talking about, in the sense that, oh, you got one on your right? In the sense that by sort of getting people away from their own agency and their own existence, you know, by divorcing people from their own subjectivity, I guess, they, or at least their own perception of subjectivity, they like enable a degree of comfort, but are perhaps not so good at provoking sort of human and positive human pro-social action. So like, and like, you know, this is the sort of thing we're talking about, right? That like, people make up their rules for what social space needs to be like, and some of those are negotiated rules that everyone agrees on, like don't talk in the movie theater. But some people make up their own rules where those don't apply to them, or make up alternate rules that they expect other people to follow when they're for no reason. And so, and then those people are the ones who are like, I shouldn't have to see your child here or whatever. But then also, you know, the generalized infantilizations, the generalized infantilization, like, is what contributes to these sort of or like, yeah, it normalizes this sort of anti-adulthood. And so that's why you get these sort of, you know, it's not a coincidence that a lot of the like, get your politics out of my movie people, or that Marvel people are so often like, get your politics out of my movie people, right? Because they don't want to have to reflect on the significance of their choice or the meaning of their aesthetic thing. They want it to simply exist as this like purely aesthetic object, absent any kind of ethical or conceptual reflection, because, and it appeals to them because it's infantilizing, and then it also, they protect it as an infantilized object because they want, that's what they want. Okay, mission complete. I think that basically answers your question.
Yeah, the infantilized object.